Hello, this is Ron Climer from Ormond Beach, Florida. I work with Keller Williams Realty in Daytona, soon to have an office in Ormond Beach. But I want to talk to you young people. Actually, I want to talk to anybody that's interested, but the younger you are, the more important this is to your financial longevity, your financial well-being. And that is, I want you to buy your first house. It might be a little bit of a burden for you to buy your first house, but the sooner you buy your first house, and it's hard when you're 25 years old to imagine being 35 years old. And it's real hard when you're 25 years old to imagine being 75 years old. But trust me, if you're lucky, you'll get there. Now, so young people, I want you to pay attention. The first thing I want you to do is buy a house. Now, by the way, if you are a veteran, you can buy a house for absolutely nothing down. No money down. This is a benefit that we have for veterans here in America, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, if you're not a veteran, you can still buy a house for very little down, about 3.5%. Well, let's say you went out and you wanted to buy a $200,000 house. Well, 3.5% of $200,000 is about $7,000. So if you could save up $7,000, get yourself a $193,000 FHA mortgage, and now stop and think for a second. What do you think the payments of that are going to be? Well, the principal and interest, that's your mortgage payments, are going to be about $800 a month. And your taxes might be another $200 a month, and your insurance might be another $100 a month. So you're paying $1,100 a month payments, but that's not rent. That's not the same as rent, because in 30 years, and trust me, 30 years will go by a lot faster than you can possibly imagine when you're 30 years old. And so in 30 years, if you stayed in that house, you'll own that house free and clear, and you will have no payments to nobody. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, please stay with me to the bitter end here, because I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should own a house. And your financial well-being is one of those reasons. But another, because most financial wealth starts with real estate. It's the number one easiest way to get rich. And when I say rich, I don't mean rich like Donald Trump rich, but rich enough that you don't have to worry about whether or not Biden's elected or Trump's elected. Either way, you're going to get along just fine. And so that's where I want you to get. Now, can I tell you the number one reason you want to buy a house? Houses appreciate. That is, they go up in value. Now, they've been doing that since 1492. They're not going to quit anytime soon. A lot of people say, oh, they don't go up. Well, they do go up. Let me tell you about the very first house I ever sold. I sold it in 1974 in Orlando, Florida. I just got my real estate license. I'm sitting around in an open house on a Sunday afternoon. This young couple walked in. Their name was Terry and Mary. Terry drove a cab, and Mary was a waitress. And they walked into my open house. It was $33,000 for that house. Well, they couldn't afford a $33,000 house. But you know what? I took them right down the street in Monterey Homes in Orlando, Florida, right down there at the corner of Conway Road and Highway 436, and I sold them a house for $18,800. They barely qualified for the mortgage. They could barely make the payments. But they bought that house. That's the first house I ever sold. I was excited. 12 years later, I ran into Mary at the shopping mall. We were walking down the mall, and she walked up and said, "Are you Ron Climer?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I'm Mary." And I said, "Hey, Mary, I remember you." And we talked, and she said, I just can't thank you enough for selling us that house back when you did. 12 years ago. She said, we lived in that house for 10 years, and we sold that house, and we made $35,000 when we sold that house. They'd only paid $18,000 for it, and they made $35,000 profit because real estate had appreciated during that period of time in Orlando. And that's the way it is. By the way, now let me give you a better explanation of this. I have another video right here on YouTube, and the name of it is Ron Climer Tells You Why to Buy Your First House in 2012. Put that into the search bar and watch that video. It's a lot more detailed than this one, but the bottom line, when the smoke clears, is in 2012. How long ago was that? Well, 2020 is almost over. I hope I make it to the end, but it's 2020 now, and an average house in Orlando, Florida is not $110,000 anymore. It's more like twice that. The example I have on that video uses an average house, Orlando, Florida, 2012, $110,000. That's not correct today because houses go up in value. They just always go up in value. So that's one of the things you can count on. So houses appreciate. Now, another reason you should buy a house, you gotta live somewhere. It's not like you have a choice, you know. Should I buy a car? Should I buy a truck? You've got a choice. You don't have a choice about living somewhere. You gotta live somewhere. So if you're gonna live somewhere, you can either rent from Mr. Landlord or you can own it yourself. And owning it yourself is 1,000 times better for 1,000 different reasons. Another reason you should buy a house, buying a house, owning a house, improves your credit rating. Everybody seems to be overly concerned with their credit rating when they should be concerned with getting out of debt, but people seem overly concerned with their credit rating. If you own a house, it makes your credit better. By the way, it just helps your general reputation. Somebody might hire you for a job because you own a home as opposed to somebody else that doesn't. You just seem more stable. By the way, if you're single, it impresses the ladies that you own your own home. Now, another thing is the cornerstone of accumulating wealth. There's a lot of people, they've been in their house 15 years. As I said, it's appreciated in value, and they decide, gee, well, we like living here, but we'd like to buy an investment property. Well, they might refinance their old house to get the money out and buy a new house with. There's a lot of things you can do when you own a house that you can't do if you don't. Now, another thing about you should buy a house, renting is just the pits. You got to ask the landlord if you can paint. You got to ask the landlord if you can do this, you can do that. You don't have to ask anybody anything when you own it. You want to add a bedroom, fire it up. You know, you want to add a second story, go for it. And also, if you own a house, and I can't go into the details here, although I do a little bit in the 2012 video, but when you own a house, the interest you pay and the taxes that you pay to the local government are tax deductible. And because that's true, you're paying those $1,100 a month payments. But that's really cheaper than $1,100 a month rent. It's not only cheaper because of the fact that it's tax deductible, it'll never go up in 30 years. Whereas your rent, you can rest assured, will go up in 30 years. So those are some reasons that you should buy a house. If you're anywhere near Ormond Beach and you want somebody that can explain this to you in more detail, I'm Ron Climer. I'm with Keller Williams Realty. My phone number is 828-755-6996. That's my old phone I brought down from Carolina with me. So if I can help you in any way, give me a call and I'll be glad to get you started as a homeowner or anything else I can do to help you. Thank you very much.